Welcome to the Redvee TV Show, supported by Chapel House for the 2023 season. And on this week's show, we look forward to the biggest game in rugby league. It is the derby. It is Saints versus the Warriors. It is St Helens versus Wigan at the Totally Wicked Stadium this Friday night. It's all shaping up to be a cracker. Saints coming back into form. Wigan going completely out of form. So you know what that means, Kevin?
Yes, I do. Traditional derby results.
Wigan win.
Yeah.
Do you know what? You could just write it, couldn't you? So obviously we've overturned the points difference with an absolutely amazing display against Huddersfield at the Magic Weekend, which means that Saints do have the opportunity to go above Wigan into the top three in the table if they can overcome the dearest rivals this Friday night. And do you know what? Given we're supposed to have the worst start ever, that's not a bad place to be at this moment in time, especially with a game in hand to come to.
Correct. We've kind of built into the season, obviously, going over to Australia, and that it did take its toll. And then when you're missing bodies and you're trying to get like combinations working, it just hasn't worked for us, has it? Because we've just been missing people, as we'll get onto when we go into the squads and who plays and who doesn't. I'm just wary of false dawns. I'm trying to not bring a downer on it, but I am wary of false dawns. After we played Warrington and battered them, we all thought Saints were back. It's now up to the lads on the field to, especially that second half performance on Sunday, to really show what they're made of, show what they can do. We all know what they can do. We all know how good they are. And it's almost up to them to get the occasion out of the mind and approach the game with an intensity. Got to start quickly. Doesn't necessarily mean points on the board, but it means putting a marker down. Start quickly, and we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say, was it Aristotle who said, one swallow doesn't make a summer?
Yeah.
That famous proverb.
Right. You've been Googling your philosophers here.
You've got to take advantage of all the good philosophers in the world, Kevin.
Yes.
Take on board.
Okay. Socrates next.
What, the Brazilian footballer?
Yeah. I knew you were going to go with that.
Okay. There we go. There are less than 400 tickets remaining in the home areas. If Wigan don't sell their tickets, are we allowed to go in the East Stand as well and use that terracing too, Kev?
Don't start this with Wigan fans again. They didn't like it that you wanted to get more tickets for fans to kind of put more money into the Wigan economy. I'm sure they wouldn't like it. But listen, if there was a way segregated, very safely segregated.
Don't get why it needs to be segregated. I know the ground is just the way it's set up, and that it's natural, but there doesn't need to be segregation in rugby league crowds. I'm sorry, we were at Headingley last week or the week before in the away end with Leeds fans stood around us. Knowsley Road, Saints Wigan derbies. There used to be plenty of Saints fans on the Eddington end. It's a notion that we don't want to get in the game. So listen, if we need to have a cash turnstile because Wigan can't sell their tickets, probably because the ticket office has been shut quite a bit, then have a cash turnstile. Get the ground sold out, and we can enjoy the game stood next to our nearest and dearest and share a Bovril with them.
Yeah, I'm sure they'd take to you quite kindly in that East Stand as well if you went and shared a Bovril and a packet of Quavers. All the crisps are available. Yeah, with them. I think you should. I think you should take up that idea, David, and go mingle with the Wiganers. I'm sure they'd love you.
Yeah, I'm a wannabe Briganti. Not quite.
No.
Okay, Kev. Onto the squads. Now, obviously, the big news this week is that Morgan Knowles is available once again following suspension. So the conversation this week is shaped into should he come back into the team. Now, there's a difference between what we. Well, you can make an argument for both, can't you, Kev? Quite easy
Yes.
on this one.
Yeah, of course you can. Because you can turn around and say, well, has he suffered enough punishment? What's going on behind the scenes? Has he learned his lesson? Is he chomping at the bit to come back? Because it's just he had his 5-game ban, came back for 1, and then has been out for 2. So you could turn around and say, has he suffered enough punishment? And then there's the other train of thought of, we've just absolutely put a schooling on Huddersfield, albeit a very poor Huddersfield team. Do you change a winning team? And when we asked the question on social media, there was a mix of answers to that, of some people saying, of course you put Morgan Knowles back in, and others saying exactly that, you know what, he's got to play his way back in. I think with it being Wigan and it being high intensity, I think he does come back in though.
Yeah, I'm in the school of thought that he has to earn his way back in a little bit. If you ask me, I know it was promoted quite a lot by Christian Wolf during his time here, that it was your shirt to lose. But then on the other side of it, I've quite frequently used the argument that you play your best 17 at all times. Yeah. And is Morgan Knowles part of our best 17 available? Yes, he is. I'm still upset about his ban. But I think, who was the famous philosopher who said you don't cut your nose off to spite your face?
You're not done your homework that much on your philosophers then. I think it's every parent in the world who says that though. That's it. He is one of our best 17. I think that goes without saying. Can you learn a lesson if you sat on the touchline without getting back out there and playing and proving to the coaching staff, to the fans, to the hierarchy at the club that you have learned your lesson? I'm not entirely sure you can just by sitting out on the sideline. I know we've used that phrase of it's your shirt to lose ourselves quite a bit. I always say about Conrad Harrell, it was his shirt to lose. Then it was John Bennison's, and now T. Ritson's had a run. You almost can't see him dropping out unless he gets injured or makes a couple of massive mistakes. I think then the question is, though, if Knowles comes back in, who goes on the bench? And do you go with where we've spelled Roby with Jake Wingfield, who's obviously missing from this? Does Morgan Knowles come your second choice hooker, or do you keep Joey Lussick on the bench?
Yeah. And do you know what, Kev? This argument would have been a lot easier if we were having to try and change the team to get Knowles back in after Leeds, when we thought we played terribly.
Yeah.
How fickle we are.
Yeah, exactly. But I
mean, you are right, Kev. If the bench is the big one, isn't it? Now it's interesting to see the makeup of the bench. When we played Wigan on Good Friday last time, there was James Bell, Joey Lussick, George Delaney, and Louis McCarthy-Scarsbrook. But the two additions in this squad from that one, obviously Alex Walmsley and Joe Battler. So two from that Good Friday team essentially miss out, don't they? If you assume that Morgan Knowles is coming back in, and all the noise from Paul Wellens is that he is going to start this week and spell with James Bell. So George Delaney obviously will be one who played Good Friday, who won't play this time round, and that leaves another to drop out. And I think the other shirt is potentially between Louis and Joey Lussick.
Possibly so. Yeah, you mentioned the Leeds game, and you look at the passing from dummy half, especially towards the end of the game when we're trying to slot that drop goal. There was a lot of sloppy passes from both James Roby and Joey Lussick. I think it's a big ask to want James Roby to do bigger minutes, especially a bit warmer weather as well. Intense games such as a derby. It's a big ask to get him to do even 70 minutes in a game like this. that then means there's a decision to make on who you want as your dummy half. I know, like some of our mates have said, James Bell could jump in there. Has he played there for the club before? What has he done at hooker? Is he any good there? I always say that I never want to see Morgan Knowles there. Is it something that Paul Wellens doesn't mind seeing for 20, 30 minutes? Because he's in the middle, he's got that aggression, and really all he needs to do is listen to his halfbacks of where they want the ball. It's a tough one.
He can't get into trouble.
What's that?
And he can't get into trouble from the play of the ball.
Yeah, true. I think it's a really tough one, and I hope we've not got one eye on it. But is our next game Hull in the Cup?
No, League first.
League first.
No, sorry, Cup. It's Cup.
And what day is that on?
Saturday.
Right.
And then the Thursday after is the league game.
Yeah. And I'm wondering whether you look at this set of fixtures and think that if one of your props does miss out, so if Louis does drop out, you can play Louis and George Delaney against Hull in the Cup. And I'm only using Louis as an example. I'm not saying that I would drop him out, but you could use him in the Cup game and not really weaken your like little cabal of props.
And equally, Kev, obviously the Cup game coming up is huge. Do you want to be flogging James Roby for 70, 80 minutes in a league game? Because you've got to have a focus on both comps. Obviously, we want to finish in the top two, get that home semi-final in the playoffs. Listen, if you watch back on previous episodes, we've discussed Joey Lussick, haven't we? And I was highly critical of him after Hull KR away. And I don't think at times he has been meeting the required standards. But I have to say, over the last month or last few weeks, I think he's really played himself into a shirt, and I think he's done bigger minutes. He's been given more trust by the coaching staff. And at this moment in time, if he was to miss out, I feel he would be very, very unlucky.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think now he started getting extra minutes, like against Leeds again, go back to that. He was one of the performers who kind of lifted us a little bit. I don't think anybody was great across the board, with probably the exception of Alex Walmsley's second stint, which again, we'll apologise to Big Al for not really mentioning that. But he was one who did lift his game and kept us going and did a good hour there. And it would be, as I say, it's a great situation to be in, but it would be really unlucky for him to miss out. Because then you've not really got another 9 in that squad. I know, as I say, Knowles can do it. And we're talking about this and saying LMS could drop out. People might ask about Sione Matautia as well. But against Huddersfield, he seemed to play more in the middle. And Paul Wellens actually said he was excellent in the middle. And then he gave the option to move, went a little bit further out wide, where he was really good as well. So does it give you that bit more flexibility as well, having Sione on the bench with Lussick, Parsi, and you'd imagine James Bell? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Wello said James Bell will spell with Morgan Knowles. Wasn't there an article about Sione and potentially where he'll end up playing next year?
Yeah, it was reported by Matt Shaw in Rugby League Live. And it said that obviously he's made a couple of cameo appearances in the middle, and there's a chance that could be a plan for him moving forward. Paul Wellens said that he'll see his flexibility with Sione, and that Sione isn't bothered where he plays. He just wants to be playing and compete, and he's equally effective wherever. So they don't want to pigeonhole him. And when he came over, he was someone who could play in the middle and could play back row. And this is all what Paul Wellens has said, and as I say, Matt Shaw's reported it. So there is the chance of playing Sione up the middle if you need him to. You've got Parsi who can play up the middle. You can move to Knowles to up the middle if you need him to.
So if you look, Kevin, like roles that players play in squads, if we assume or we're guessing that this is going to be Louis McCarthy-Scarbrooke's final season before retirement, is the thinking that if Sione stays, that he potentially plays the LMS role next season in terms of being that mobile prop, who could, but obviously can act like a second rower at times as well. Don't want to talk to them about them, yeah. And in that case, does that come into the thinking at this moment in time? So potentially, Sione could play the Louis role this week, and Louis plays the role of Waterboy cheerleader.
Possibly so. Possibly so. I see it almost like Sia Soliola did in his career, where he started out at the centre, moved into the second role, and then ended up at prop. And it could be that is the plan. Listen, you want people who are going to stay out there and be able to put in a performance. There is nothing to suggest Louis McCarthy-Scarsbrook can't do that. He's been exceptional, I think, this season. I think it's one of the best seasons he's had for some time. But you've also then got to take into consideration his age. And it probably does take him that little bit longer to get over bumps and bruises, same as it does with James Roby. You've got to look after these players as well. It is a strong, strong potential that he could miss out, especially if you're trying to tie Sione Matauti down to a deal. You don't want to drop him out, do you? I think he's going to be part of the squad this week.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd have to say, if Louis isn't in the 17 this week, he is very, very unlucky. I don't think there's anyone who will miss out this week who won't consider themselves, I don't want to say aggrieved, but very unfortunate. I agree. I think Louis has been excellent this year, as always. I'm just trying to shoehorn a squad together that works. I wouldn't like to be Paul Wellens this week because it's a real difficult job. Elsewhere in the squad, you'd assume that the others that miss out will be John Bennison, George Delaney again this week, Will Hopewati once again. I don't think you can change much in that backline.
No, I agree with that. That's the players that you say they might not necessarily feel aggrieved, but I think George Delaney at the minute, he's in and about. I think he will genuinely look in front of him and think, yeah, there's a prop unit there that I'm aspiring to. I've had quite a few games this year, so I don't think he'll be upset to miss out, but I don't think he'll like not understand it. I agree with the other two. Bennison may well be 18th man, as usual, to keep him in and around. I think the one player that we do know will definitely be playing is Matty Lees, because in that picture, it looks like somebody's plugged him in and he's on charge.
Don't mention charge.
Oh, yeah.
The MRP will be well onto him. He'll be up for something ahead of Hull.
Can I just say, with regards to that, the way the club does the work with the MRP and challenges what it should and doesn't challenge what it shouldn't, I think so far has been absolutely tremendous. I think it's been, you get other fans of other teams, not all of them, but some salty that were challenging something that wasn't even a ban. It was a charge for a high shot. But if their club
that plays into the thinking down the line. If Walmsley does something else, they can say he's been charged with a grade B previously.
Correct.
So you have to challenge it. Yeah. My issue, Kev, is obviously if people see our social media feed, Alex was put up for a couple of things in front of the by the MRP to the disciplinary. One of them was a knee that touched the face of the Huddersfield player, which wasn't complained about by the Huddersfield player. It was completely innocuous. The game just went on as normal. And then he got pinged for the high tackle where it was a clash of heads. But then weeks previously, and I put the video up that matched it, when Leeds man, former Saints player, James Bentley, ran into Abbas Miski, charging in on him as he was catching a high ball and nearly knocked himself out. Nothing was given. Two things. Are we completely re-reffing games have we completely lost sight of what the disciplinary should be for when we're looking at every single minuscule thing on every single tackle? And the consistency. how was Alex Walmsley getting charged or put up in the first place where James Bentley never even got referred? It doesn't make sense. It does appear at times that we seem to get referred a lot more than others.
It's probably because we play on the edge. I think there's no doubt in that. But
genuinely, Kev, did anybody see Huddersfield man, can't even think of his name, run into Alex Walmsley's head and think, oh, that's a ban for Alex Walmsley?
Joe Greenwood, it was.
Joe Greenwood.
No, and that takes me
even
back
Joe
to...
Greenwood didn't.
Yeah, this is...
remember much.
I don't think I was going to say, I think he was a little bit poorly. I think you're right that it's lost sight of what it should be for. Listen, if there's... I'm turning into you saying, listen, if there's something in there that warrants looking at, then look at it. By all means. But it doesn't mean that every single decision needs to be re-looked at. Especially, as you say, because of the inconsistencies, because we ended up, I think it was 19 players charged. Now, were there 19 things that you think, yeah, they're worthy of looking at? You look at even Luke Yates. I'm not shouting for a ban for him, but I'm surprised that he didn't get anything for going in to the knees on Tommy Makinson. I'm surprised that I think he got grade A dangerous contact, and you think that's the type of thing that you don't want in the game.
That said, did Sione get the same?
Yeah, but listen, then all right, that's consistency, but that needs stamping out the game. So if Sione gets that, then I think Sione's been leniently done to.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, again, penalise the act, not the injury. So if Tommy Makinson does his ACL in that tackle, how many games does he get for exactly the same thing?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that they penalise the injury. Ah, well.
Wigan squad news, Kev?
Yeah, one change, Brad Singleton in, and young hooker Tom Forber drops out.
Now, they got an absolute walloping against Catalan. Wigan will be well up for this game. Listen, they could have walloped Catalan, and I don't think it would change what they do this week. They just get up for derbies.
They do. They're missing quite a few in the pack. They're missing Willie Isa, Mike Cooper, Ethan Havard, and Kai Pearce-Paul. Maybe they'll go to a game plan where they try and get the ball wide early. I think Huddersfield tried that against us at Magic, where they're trying to put it out to the centres and wingers early to stretch us. Maybe they'll come out with something like that. Maybe they'll just try and get us in an arm wrestle and make it all about field position. The one thing we can't do is, like last time, is fall into that trap, because that's what we did. A lot of one-out rugby. Paul Wellens mentioned support play and leaving points out there when we're at the DW. If we get caught up in one-out play, that'll feed straight into Wigan's hands. They've got a lot of good strike players there. Still, it's just we've got to, as I said before, intensity and kind of start wearing the pat down early.
I think with the amount of pace Wigan have got in their team and the fact that they try and spread it wide quite early, you got Liam Marshall, Bevan French, Jai Field. I think that's why T. Ritson stays in the squad and stays in the team. Because obviously at Magic, he made 145 metres, the most of any Saint on the day. 70 of them were going to the try line before going down like Devon Lock in the tackle. But I think defensively, he's been really good as well. He might leave that little bit of space and entice people to go on the outside, but he covers it. He covers the space well.
Yeah, definitely. I think you've got to. It is fighting fire with fire, isn't it? Where you've got pace, so you need pace to cover that. Because they get any broken field, as you say, Jai Field, Bevan French, Liam Marshall, Abbas Miski, get a little bit of space, and they're no slouches, are they? They're absolutely no slouches. They've got all the backs there, as you can see. They've got a decent runner on the backs, but it's just we've got to be patient, but aggressive. That first stint, and I'm robbing a lot here from Don McCormack, who's of this parish, by saying that first stint from Alex Walmsley and Matty Lees has got to lay the platform, and the second row was with them as well. It's got to lay the platform. It's got to keep knocking Wigan back and forcing errors from them, movement off the ball, making the opposition think by having a support runner or two, so they don't know which one it's not just one out, and just get stuck into it. Get stuck into it and be aggressive without going over the top.
That's enough about them. But I am going to pull up this quote from Matt Peet, who always speaks very eloquently for a Wiganer.
Yeah.
In his preview for the game this week, he spoke on the rivalry and said, other teams like to think they are our rivals, but really, Wigan v Saints is by far the biggest game. Warrington Wolves, get back in your box.
You know what? He's not wrong, though. He's not wrong. As you say about Matty Peet, I think it's when Justin Holbrook was our coach, and I saw a load of Wigan fans were turning around saying, I hate the fact that I like him because he speaks sense. I get that same feeling about Matty Peet. He comes across as a fellow who loves his club, who speaks sense, who isn't one who is trying to buy into any stupidness. He's just a straight down the line fella who, as you say, comes across really, really well.
Yeah, nothing truer said than that quote. Listen, we like beating Warrington and putting them back in their box, but there is only one real rivalry, and that's with Wigan.
Yeah.
Daniel Anderson Fund, Kev, World Champion Experience raffle to raise funds to help towards Daniel Anderson's rehabilitation after his accident suffered in Australia, and there's some fantastic prizes.
There are indeed. It's you know what, this is so good to see the club getting involved with this. It's horrific, the accident and injury that he's had, but he brought a lot of good times to us as Saints. So it's only fair that we kind of try and look after him as well as we can. I know he's back over in Oz, but listen, get involved with this. See the prizes that are there on offer. It's, you know what, it's one of them that the main prize, second prize are absolutely tremendous, but even just getting a home shirt signed by the first team squad, the World Club Champion squad, is a wonderful thing to have, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that second prize is the best one to have, personally, better than the main one.
The heritage shirt.
Yeah, the heritage shirt, because it's a player version.
Yeah.
And they're going to be rare as hen's teeth in years to come.
I think my thing is, if I did win this, the placement of the 2023 World Club Challenge Trophy graphic with Paul Wellens is, I'd just leave him to it, because I'd be scared of putting it on upside down or wonky or something, and it'd be forever on the wall. Yeah, in it. Tarnished by me.
Yeah, place it upside down just for... But yeah, I think the tickets are £10 each. They can be purchased from saintssuperstore.com or in the actual club shop. You can get them as well. It'll be drawn by a member of the first team squad on the 16th of June. So do not hesitate, and don't do what I did and push in front of someone at the raffle once. And what was it? The
Golden Gamble draw or whatever it is, the halftime draw. When I wasn't actually in the West Ham for this, I'd taken my mum into the to the seats, I'll call it. Yeah, David managed to push in front of a woman, and the next ticket along came out for the jackpot, which would have been yours if you'd just waited.
You know what? I knew that was going to happen. So share the wealth.
Yes. Of course. You're such a kind and generous fellow.
Absolutely. Thinking of others all the time.
Yes.
Last bit of news, Jan Norman going out on loan to the Leigh Leopards. I think he's out of contract at the end of the year, isn't he?
Yes.
Is it fair to say Dan is 25 years old, 26 the start of the new season, is well down the pecking order at Saints, needs to be playing some sort of rugby league at some sort of level, and it's a pretty decent move for him to get a couple of weeks at a Super League club and hopefully get a little bit of game time. 15 appearances in Saints colours in the last few years, and it just doesn't seem like he's going to make that breakthrough into our squad.
No, I think you're right, as you say. You look at our props, Alex Walmsley, Matty Lees, LMS, Iggy Parsi, Jake Wingfield, George Delaney, Sione Matautia now, Morgan Knowles, all playing prop before or in the middle before Dan Norman is. I know he's had an injury, but this is a very good move for him, with Leigh absolutely flying at the minute and doing it in the right way as well, apart from the fact that the reserves haven't had a run out as yet, which is a bit disappointing. But I think it's a good move for him. Gets him game time, as you say. I personally don't see him being with us next year unless he goes to Leigh and starts playing like Kevin Ward.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I would, if it goes well for him at Leigh, I'd keep it as a rolling loan.
Yeah, I think they will do. And I think it may come in, like, if we did end up with a couple of injuries further down the line, it may well end up as a really good deal for us as well. That if we've got to drag him back in, he's up at that level. Because playing at Swinton, obviously, you're getting minutes and you're getting competitive minutes, but it is obviously a massive step up, isn't it?
Yeah. Good luck to Dan at Leigh. Right, Kev, predictions for the week?
6x12.
I'll go Saints by 28.
We'll have Alex Graham back on tweeting going, what happened to that prediction, boys? Because that's what he did after Good Friday. We'll just roll out the picture of him in the 97 home shirts.
Yeah. We'll get a cardboard cutout of him and he can have a ticket on the East Stand with one of the unsold Wigan ones.
Yeah.
Right then. We will be back with the instant reaction, hopefully, after a Derby Day victory over the Warriors, or we'll be crying into our pint pots. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch you soon.